Thanks. Ooh, that is bright. Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming out. Thanks to the Shippo folks also for organizing this and having me here. We're a new Shippo partner, and we're really excited about it. Our integration went live about 2 months ago, and yeah, so far it's a great partnership. So any of you that aren't working with them yet, I would highly encourage it. Wanted to start off just a little bit talking about my background. Before RJ Metrics, I actually had another startup. It was a landscaping company in the town I grew up in. And our main customer acquisition strategy was printing up these terrible flyers. And my friend would sit in the passenger seat of my mom's minivan, and I would go around my neighborhood, and he would just stuff them in different mailboxes. And when I got home, I actually had a message waiting for me from the local postmaster saying that it's illegal for anyone but the Postal Service to stuff out mailboxes. And if I didn't cease and desist, I was basically going to be liable for mail fraud. So all that's to say, I have a complicated history with shipping. But I feel like being here today, I finally have the validation to be respected in this industry, which I'm really excited about. A little while in my post-landscaping career, I actually worked at a venture capital and private equity firm called Insight Venture Partners, which invested mostly in e-commerce and software businesses. And it was there doing due diligence on new investments that my co-founder, who was my colleague there, and I got the idea for RJ Metrics, which is basically data analytics and business intelligence software targeted at e-commerce firms. So the rationale behind this was that folks like Amazon had huge internal data teams. They were doing all sorts of really sophisticated internal analytics. They had very sophisticated systems. But most smaller e-commerce shops didn't have that team and didn't have the time or the capital to make that investment. So we became almost like their outsourced analytics function, doing everything from data collection to warehousing, transformation, and visualization. About a year ago, we sold that company to Magento, the e-commerce shopping cart platform. And actually, my former coworkers have done an amazing job there. At the Imagine conference this past year, they rolled out Magento Business Intelligence, which is our old product, out to the whole customer base. So I'm super excited that that's going to get used by like the tens of thousands of Magento merchants now. So now I'm co-founder and CEO of Stitch. And Stitch helps out with warehouses, but not the kind of warehouses that most people are talking about here. In our context, a data warehouse is basically just like a fancy database that has lots of different data from lots of different data sources. So things like your shipping data, your transactional data, payment processing, customer support, what you spend on ads, all the different data sources you have. And our goal with Stitch is to enable the next generation of analytics companies. So folks like RJ Metrics and folks who are doing things that are very different, all different sorts of analytical use cases, they need data from all the different applications that businesses use consolidated into one spot so that they can analyze it, so they can inform decision making. So that's what we do. So the thing that I wanted to start off by saying after my background is just that it's probably not a contentious statement for all of you here, but shipping matters. And in particular, free shipping. And a lot of this, it touches on similar themes what Mike was saying, and I thought that talk was great. But 60% of e-commerce companies cite free shipping with conditions as their most successful marketing tool. And I think that's so funny, like with conditions. It seems like a withholding friend or something like that. When they survey customers, 3 out of 4 say that they've added an extra cart or two to their cart to qualify for free shipping. And I know that that's true for me. I actually have a list of things that I need that aren't time sensitive, and I just add it to carts when I want to get that free shipping. Also at the bottom, you'll see these little footnotes there. I'm a compulsive footnoter, but I'll have my contact info at the end of the session. I'll also be back there, and obviously you guys can ask questions as well. But anyone who's interested in the data or some of the resources I mentioned, I can just follow up, and I have an email with all that information I can send. So your best customers care about shipping, and they care about specifically free shipping, and your best customers, they matter a lot. This is actually from a data benchmark report we did at RJ Metrics across about 400 different e-commerce companies. The top 1% of customers account for almost 20% of revenue at those companies. The top 5% account for more than a third, and the top 10% account for almost a half. So if you piss off a small percentage of your customers, that's potentially a very costly thing. And similarly, if you acquire more of those customers, or if you convert some of your existing customers into folks like that, it's incredibly valuable. Because those best customers, if you compare the top 1% to the median, they spend 5 times more per order, and their lifetime value is over 30 times as much. So thinking about shipping as kind of both an input and an output to that calculation, because you can use free shipping to get people over that threshold, to get them to buy more and commit more to your brand, and then also as they're spending more, they can take advantage of whatever shipping offers you have. So if you think about free shipping thresholds, where to set them, why to set them in different places, you can imagine a distribution of orders. And you have people that are spending a little, you have people who are spending a whole lot, and as you can imagine, most people fall somewhere in between. And if you think about the median order, what you want your free shipping threshold to do is to kind of incentivize people to reach. They put some stuff in their cart that they came to you already looking for, and then they think, you know what, I don't want to pay shipping, I'm going to buy that one more item. So depending on where you set that threshold, it can have a huge impact on whether or not people are reaching for that order. And if you set it too low, no one's going to be reaching, everyone's going to get free shipping, and it's going to cost you a lot of money. And free shipping is actually really emotional. This is not something you can do purely based on data, as much as it hurts me to say that as a data guy. Amazon has moved their free shipping threshold from $25 to $35 to $49, back to $35. This is all for non-prime. And they get eviscerated every time it gets raised. If you look at Amazon forums, people are just calling them horrible people. And then every time they lower it, they're heroes. It's fantastic, and everyone is super excited about Amazon. Amazon spends a lot of money on this. This chart blows my mind. 2015, it was $5 billion on shipping. 2016, it's $7.2 billion. This is a lot of money. And obviously, like Mike was saying, Amazon is the gorilla in the room that we all need to think about and change our strategy based on that. But that is not cheap. And they're making huge, huge investments, so you have to be smart about how you're going to do that to be strategic, because I don't know the balance sheets of everybody in the room, but I bet they're probably smaller than Amazon for at least most of you. And if not, good job. So think about the other side of that slide I showed before about free shipping thresholds. Can't be too low, because then everyone gets it. No one's reaching for additional products for their cart. You don't want it to be too high, because let's say my cart is filled with $20 worth of stuff, and the free shipping threshold is $60. I'm probably not going to triple my order value just to get that free shipping. So if you set it too far away, you're not going to get people just to reach. It needs to be attainable, but still a little bit of a stretch. Because if it is too much of a stretch, then you'll get abandoned carts. And this just stinks. It's one of the top 3 causes of shopping cart abandonment, and depending on who you ask and who does the study, shopping carts get abandoned 60 to 80% of the time, which is just insane. Like you've bought ads on Google or Facebook, you've gotten them to your website, you've split tested all different layouts, you got them to convert, you went to different product pages, they looked at reviews, they rated it, they compared different variants, they added it to their cart, they get to checkout, and then they leave. And almost everybody leaves. 80% of people leave. That's so many people. So anything you can do to take a bite out of that is huge and just makes an enormous difference, and free shipping has that possibility. So the Goldilocks zone, where you want to be, is it's not too high and it's not too low and it's just right. You want it to be higher than the median, but not so much higher than the median that it's unattainable, because then you get people just to scoot out there. So how do you figure out what that right threshold is? It's very easy for me to make charts like this and say, yeah, it's squiggly like that, and you want to be over there and not over there. But that's not really tangibly useful and for you to set free shipping thresholds. So there's a couple different strategies you can use. One thing that's almost always useful is to bucket your orders into different amounts. You can have a continuous distribution of what the different orders look like, but you can set reasonable buckets, $0 to $20, 20 to 40, 40 to 80. These buckets may make sense depending on your business or something different. And what you want to do is compare the median of, and draw that plot, compare the median to where your free shipping threshold is, and try to just get a sense visually of where you can go. Because, like I said, this is partially based on data and partially informed on your customers' emotions and how much you think there's something else that they kind of sort of want, but maybe it's not justified to buy right now. You can also just test different thresholds. You can do it serially. Let's say today it's $35. Like Amazon was changing that around. You can bet they did a tremendous amount of analysis of how the before and after impacted their average order value. You can also run limited time promotions. You can say for this month only, for the holiday season, for Mother's Day or Father's Day, you get free shipping if you put something on this order. We're lowering the threshold. The gold standard, though, is an A/B test. That's the only way you can really know for sure, or at least that's the highest confidence you can get, is if you're just randomly assigning your users to different buckets, giving some of them one threshold, some of them the other threshold, and then analyzing their behavior and see how it's different. We actually have this template spreadsheet. This is more for folks who have kind of lower order value. I'll show some other tools that help if you're a higher volume merchant. But again, you can follow up with me later. I can send you this. This is just a very easy way to do some of that analysis, get a very simple chart, and get a quick gut check of, is it probably too high, probably too low. But all those different strategies I mentioned, they have some real downsides in terms of how to actually figure that out. If you do that buckets and you create the plot, it's just going to give you a gut answer. It's going to give you something to say, like, OK, it's probably too high. It's more something that informs future experimentation. If you serially test different thresholds, you have one thing this month, another thing 3 months from now, you're going to be impacted by seasonality. If one of those things is during the holiday season, depending on your business, that may be much bigger. It's also you're acquiring different customers, your ad mix is different, so it's not going to be a perfect test. If you run limited time promotions, that's also not perfect. Because if you have something where you're adding urgency and you're not going to have that urgency later, well then obviously people act differently under situations of urgency and under situations where they don't have it. So coupon codes, all those things, they can really impact it. A/B test is the best from a data perspective, but you might piss some people off. If I found out that I spent $50 and I ordered the exact same things as somebody else, and they got free shipping and I didn't, I am not going to feel great about that. And depending on what business you're in, that may be worth it. And this is the best way to know for sure. But depending on your emotional relationship with your customers, you have to know what it's going to be like if they find out. Because odds are someone's probably going to find out, and then they're going to be the most vocal person on your forums. So again, it's something you could be OK with or something that you might not be. Everything I've been saying so far is based on revenue. And that's a simplification because you have a lot of different KPIs in your business that matter. You have different cost of goods sold for different items. They have different weight. They cost different amounts to ship. Some things are fragile. Some things need to be refrigerated. Again, this is all very situational specific. And that KPI that you're going for is going to be based on what's important to your business right now. So if you're a public company, you're probably optimizing for profitability. If you're a venture-backed startup, you might be trying to raise your next round of funding, and you're optimizing for GMV or revenue. And if you have some other big strategic goal, like expand internationally, maybe it's fine to lose a bunch of money on international shipping in order to gain market share. And because domestic versus international can be just complete apples and oranges in this case, there's different local customs, there's different costs, there's different timing. We work with some businesses that ship only to cities in China and some businesses that ship only to rural areas in China. And the amount of differences between what it costs to ship, the timing expectations, whether people have addresses, just stuff like that is just unbelievable. And so lumping all that together to do the analysis is not really useful, so you need to separate it out. And then again, like I mentioned before, you need to filter out the things that are going to skew the data. So promotions, coupon codes, limited time offers, holiday versus not holiday. If you have membership program that get a discount, you want to separate all those buckets. And again, this is a lot more work, but this is how you get the real insight to it. One other way to use the shipping info for improving your business is for prospecting. So I was talking a lot about once you have the customer on your website, how do you get the most value out of them? But this is actually from a case study we did back at RJ Metrics, where we had a company that was both e-commerce and catalog. And they didn't have gifting functionality on their website. But they wanted to combine their payment data with their shipping data to identify who was actually gifting orders. And you needed both those data sets, and once you got them together, it wasn't brain surgery. Just look at the ship to, look at the bill to. If they're different, or at least sufficiently different, there's a good chance it's gifting order. Most of their catalog acquisition was just list buying. They did demographic comparisons. They went to a vendor, bought a list, shipped catalogs of those. What they tried next was they identified all the likely gift recipients and did a targeted catalog mailing to those gift recipients, and the conversion rate was just off the charts. Because these are people that have a really strong positive emotion. Somebody they love sent them a gift from this merchant, and then they got a follow-up like, hey, wouldn't you like to give this to somebody else? So that kind of person compared to somebody who's the right age and gender, it's really just off the charts in terms of things like this. So this is not a tough analysis to do. You just need all your data together to do that analysis. So how do you actually analyze your data? One of the things that I loved from Mike's talk was talking about partners. And that's definitely true for our business. There's literally no reason to be a customer of ours if you're only buying our tool by itself, because it's useless. Like, we're something that takes data from a bunch of different places, puts it in another spot, and then something else sits on top of it and analyzing it. So we're pulling data from Shippo and Shopify and Stripe and all those different places, loading it into a data warehouse, something like Amazon Redshift or Google BigQuery or just a regular database like Postgres. And then there's a visualization tool that sits on top of it. You've probably heard of things like Tableau or Looker or Mode Analytics or Chardo. These are all different tools that people use to visualize the data once they have it all in one spot. And I actually started talking to our partners when I signed up to do this talk and saying, like, hey, what should shippers do with their data? Once they get it in their data warehouse, what sorts of analysis they can do? And several of our partners helped us out and basically said, hey, we can create some of these template analysis. So we got data from Shippo and Shopify, but it would work with any e-commerce platform, put it all together, and created some template analyses that, again, if you follow up with me afterwards, I can set you up with them and they can give you some of these analyses. So the first one is Chardo. This is a tool that's great for business users, very easy to get up and running. They created lots of different reports around geographic location location, shipping trends over time, and again, super easy tool to get up and running with. The next one is Mode Analytics. This is more of a tool for power analysts. So if you love writing SQL and Python, this is the tool for you. Lots of different flexibility in terms of how to structure the analysis on shipping trends over time, price per carrier, things of that nature. The next one is Looker. This is a tool that focuses a lot on data modeling. So they have their own proprietary language called LookML that sits on top of the data warehouse, that cleans up all the data and puts it in a more useful format, and then have a visualization interface on top of that for you to analyze. So they presented kind of a view of what does an operations person need to see. If you're working in a warehouse or you're an operations manager, here's a dashboard that you can use to actually make some actionable data and get it done. The last one here is for any of you that are much more tech focused. This is an open source tool called DBT. It stands for Data Build Tool. And it's basically for doing that kind of data modeling, but right inside the database and define it all via SQL. So this is completely free to use. It's managed by a consultant shop that we work with called Fishtown Analytics. And they built a model for Shippo so that if you pull your Shippo data out of the API and load it in your data warehouse, you can actually save a bunch of time and just start analyzing it with a fresh start. And this is on GitHub. So how do you get your shipping data? This is something that we can help out with, but there's some other options too. So we have a Shippo integration. That's the partnership we launched about 2 months ago. You can just sign up on our website and use it. There's about 60 other data sources we pull from, most of which are relevant to e-commerce. And then we also launched this open source project where, let's say you have a data team that likes to do things internally. And you don't want to use an external vendor for it, you want to own it. Well, we actually open sourced about a quarter of our integrations, including Shippo, and we're going to be open sourcing the rest of them over time so that you can just grab the code, run it on your own system, pull it on your own schedule. And here's just where the Shippo tab is. So this is the info that I mentioned before. If you go to that web page, you'll just get an auto email with all these resources. You can just follow up with me over email. I'll also be back there. But any questions, just let me know. Yes.
So one of the concerns we typically have with our customer data is it's sensitive, and we don't want to be able to have a source where the information is exposed and be accessible by rest of the company, right? It's need-based. So if you need the access to sensitive customer information, we share that. How does Stitch Data handle that?
You're saying for managing access to the data you pull for your internal team members?
Correct.
Got it. Yeah, so there's a couple different ways. One option you have is just not replicating it into the data warehouse. So you can decide that you may have, and some of our customers, the more sophisticated ones with big infrastructures, they'll have multiple staging databases. So one thing for the general company, one thing for more sophisticated things. Most databases also just have permission layers. So you can decide that certain tables or certain attributes are only available to some people. A lot of those BI partners have that as well. So the BI tool will have root access, but then you can give certain people read-only access or certain custom levels of permission. But yeah, we've seen a couple different ways, and that's also something that, depending on the database, like whether you're using Redshift or BigQuery, you'll have different functionality in that way. Cool. Other questions?
Sorry, I actually have another question.
Yeah, sure. Go for it.
Okay. So we talked about seasonality when we were looking at shipping trends.
Yep.
Is there a way to kind of modulate seasonality so when you're looking at macro trends, you're able to see how the company's business is growing?
Yeah, definitely. And so some things that are relatively straightforward to do is just use something like a moving average. So let's say you have annual seasonality, you can just do a 65-day moving average. There's also things around comparing same period last year. And there's a couple things you want to do to make sure that that's not misleading. So you want to use actually a 364-day year to compare to the previous thing. So you have week over week exactly the same, because 364 is divisible by 7, 5 is not. And there's all sorts of little things like that, and just comparing apples to apples. And you also want to compare Christmas to Christmas and Thanksgiving to Thanksgiving rather than the actual calendar days, or at least for Thanksgiving. Yeah, so there's different things, and it's all, again, a lot of it is situational specific, because what's seasonal for one business, you really care about Mother's Day. Another one, it's all about the holiday season. But yeah, those are some of the things we've seen our customers do.
Hi, so you talked about some of the visualization tools. Are there any tools that are just pre-built for e-commerce businesses? You don't have to log in and set up those charts yourself?
Sorry, could you say it one more time? I missed the first half.
So you talked about the visualization tools, right? Are there any tools wherein you just sign up and you get all the standard metrics for e-commerce or a subscription business?
Sure. So the trade-off that you're always making with an analysis tool is like power and convenience. And depending on your team that's going to be looking at it, you want to be on different ends of the spectrum, and it might change over time. So all those companies I mentioned, they actually have those analyses that I mentioned, like those are ready to go. So if you sign up with them and talk to them and say, hey, I want that thing that Jake showed at the Shippo conference, they'll just put that in your account and set you up. There's also things like if you're on that are very platform specific. Like so RJ Metrics, that company that I was previously at, they now have all these templated Magento dashboards right out of the box because now that they're a part of that company, they've done a really deep integration. There's also, you'll find if you're on a popular platform that there are tools that just sign up, authorize to connect, and then they'll create some analyses. The easier that is, typically the less deep you can go and the less flexibility you have. It's always a juggling act. Yeah, what platform are you guys on? Shopify. Okay, so Shopify, they're, I don't know firsthand. I think Glue might be one that uses Shopify, but there's a bunch of apps on the Shopify App Store. And if you talk to me later, I'm pretty sure I can make some recommendations from my colleagues. Cool. I think RJ Metrics still works with Shopify too, so I would recommend them. Those are my homeboys and girls. Any other questions? Cool. Thanks very much. I'll be back there if anyone wants to talk more.